Welcome to my store.
That's the color that they turned out to be. Otherwise, they wouldn't be blue tangs, they'd be yellow tangs. But the color and the pattern is to break up their outline. That way, when you look across the ocean, you don't see them as clearly. So a predator, they won't know, okay, that's his eye. So they might grab at this end, and then he has a chance to get away. They also breed for color. The more intense the color, usually the more fertile and healthy babies you're going to get. So if they can see far away in the clear water, they can breed for color better. That's why freshwater fish that are in muddy rivers and stuff like that, they're not as brightly colored because the male and female can't see as far away. They have less fish to choose from.
I see. What else can we talk about?
Do fish breathe air?
Yes. No. Bettas do.
Aaron?
The fish breathe air.
Okay, ask again.
The fish breathe air.
Yes, fish breathe air. In the water, they pass the water past their gills, and that way the gills take the oxygen out of the water and carbon dioxide exchange is taking place there. Plus, certain catfish and stuff like that, they can go up to the surface, get a mouthful of air, and then they blow it through their gills, and they kick the oxygen out that way. Or Siamese fighting fish, bettas, they have labyrinth passages where it's in their in this area, and they put an air bubble in there, and there's oxygen carrying blood right beside it. So that way they can breathe air, and they can live in water that has no measurable amount of oxygen in it.
Let's see. What else can we
Is
talk
there
about
more? Is there more oxygen in determine? Does the level of oxygen change with the amount of temperature?
Does the level of oxygen change the amount of temperature?
With the level of temperature.
The level of temperature.
Okay, ask it again.
Does the amount of oxygen change with what temperature it is?
Yes. Basically, the colder the water is, the more oxygen it will hold. The warmer the water is, the less oxygen it will hold. At 105, 110 degrees Fahrenheit, there's no measurable oxygen in the water. At around 80 degrees, you get usually about 5 to 7 parts per million, and as you get colder, there's more oxygen in that water.
Is that why goldfish, when they're really, really cold, they don't have to move much because there's enough oxygen?
Basically, when it's cold, the fish don't have to move much because they can't. See, their body processes are regulated by the temperature of the water, and when they're just sitting there really, really still, you'll see their gills barely move because the amount of oxygen in the water is high and the amount of oxygen that they need is very low because they're not doing any metabolic activity. There's no digestion, there's not a lot of movement, they're basically hibernating.
I see.
Do fish hibernate?
Do fish hibernate?
Goldfish, cold water fish, they'll semi-hibernate. They're still awake, they're just sitting there. There's certain fish like the lungfish and everything like that. During the dry season, they will burrow into the ground, create a cocoon out of mucus and slime to keep their skin moist, and then that way they can sit in that burrow and wait for the rainy season by breathing the atmospheric oxygen that's just in the air around them.
I see. What else can we talk about now?
Can fish walk on land?
Can fish walk on land?
There's certain fish like catfish family, Clarius cats, armored catfish that have really, really stiff pectoral fins, and they can actually walk on land when it's raining or there's a heavy dew to keep their gills wet. And some of the fish are actually causing quite a bit of problem down in Florida because they've escaped from the fish farms and they're walking from stream to stream and they eat the native fish. What's the biggest fish?
What's the biggest fish?
For length, freshwater, it's probably the Arapaima. They get to be about 18 to 20 feet long. There are anecdotal anecdotal reports of the Arapaima being up to 36 feet long, but they figured that was because somebody said, "What's the biggest Arapaima you ever seen?" He says, "Well, it was about yay bigger than my dad's canoe." And so they went out and measured a canoe and went yay bigger and said, "Oh yeah, 36 feet." But nobody's ever found one that's over about the 20.
What's the biggest saltwater fish?
The biggest saltwater fish? Whale shark. They're huge.
I know,
It's a fish.
I know, it's a trick question. I didn't think that you were going to get it.
You didn't think I was going to get whale shark? Aaron, have confidence in your father.
I don't have any.
Why are the female fish less colorful sometimes than the male fish?
Why are female fish sometimes less colorful than male fish?
Well, usually the reason the male is very brightly colored is so that he attracts attention away from the female. That way, if the female's sitting by her nest, like say they dig a hole in the gravel at the bottom of the lake, the female sitting there will be less colorful so she doesn't stand out so much. Siamese fighting fish would be the biggest example of that, with the male being extremely colorful with big fins and stuff, and the female a lot smaller, about quarter the size.
You're still not looking at the camera and I'm right behind it.
Well, because you're not right behind it.
Yes, I am.
Well, put
You're
it up
looking
higher.
over here.
Put it up higher.
Then I can't see it.
Okay.
Let's move. Like 10 minutes here.
Okay, stop.
11 minutes.
Well.